Hi, this is Tina Hamilton, and today I have Sue Meitner with Centennial Lending Group with us. Hello, Sue.
Thank you so much for having me, Tina.
So glad to have you. And Sue's also one of our tenured members. We're on a track to interview as many tenured members of EO as we can. And Sue, how long have you been a member of EO?
So I've been a member of EO since 2011.
Wow,
So 12, 13 years.
wow, it's a long time. And your business was this business your business when you started? Did you have an
No, so
okay,
I'm a residential mortgage lender
okay.
and I um, started it in 2010. I actually merged it in 2018 with another bigger company.
Oh,
And we had a very great trajectory for those 8 years. And being a residential mortgage person is all I've ever done.
oh, that's fantastic. So, and you're still in partnership with
I'm
this?
still, yep,
Yeah,
still in partnership.
that's excellent. So you that happened during the time you've been in EO that you've
That happened
merged.
all during the time of being in EO. So EO helped me build my business. EO helped
Wow.
me merge my business. I leaned on my forum for support while I was doing it. I had to sign an NDA, which was, um, difficult to go into an office for a month with knowing that it was going to be pretty draconian when we merged and that some people wouldn't have their jobs anymore. And that was like very emotionally challenging for me to do, but
Yeah.
EO with the support that I had and other people who have been through it and did it, I was able to come out on the other side and it's been amazing. It was a great thing to do, but actually having the path and knowing to what doors to walk through with people who have walked through those doors was super important and I don't think I could have done it without that support.
Wow, that's so wonderful, and it leads us right into, we usually look for like what was one of your biggest pain points, or what was an experience that you had that you want to share. And we have not talked to anybody about a merger, so if it's okay with you, Sue,
Yes,
I'd love to
absolutely.
talk more about that because I think some of the people listening could learn a lot and think about a merger acquisition and how it changes things for you because you were on your own before that,
Correct.
right? So you started your business.
I grew up, really I started in the mortgage business at the bottom rung, worked my way
Okay.
up, ended up to be one of the top salespeople. And then
Nice.
in 2009, 2008 and 9, when the whole world was imploding, I decided to open up my own mortgage banker. So not a broker, but a banker. And people don't realize that there's that difference, but you have more skin in the game as
What's
a mortgage banker.
what is the difference? Tell us.
So a mortgage broker has about $50,000 and they in the if skin in the game and they are able to shop for all the different rates, but they don't have as much control as a mortgage banker does. So as a mortgage banker, we can shop for all the different rates, but we underwrite, close, fund all the paper ourselves as the mortgage. And then once the mortgage is closed, we sell the mortgage to one of the aggregators.
I see.
And that's what we do. So in 2017, I had grown the company to a pretty substantial amount.
Okay.
And as a mom of two, I was finding that I was finding a challenge of being the everything at my office and being the everything at home. And while I was taking my son through different colleges to visit, we went to the University of Alabama, actually, Roll Tide. And I said, Drew, this is an amazing school. And he said, how would you know, Mom? You haven't been here. And I was like, what do you mean I haven't been here? And he said, you have been on your phone the entire time. Like, what did you even
Oh,
like about the school? And I was like, it's beautiful. And I just pulled some things out of my
yikes.
ears. And I said to a couple of really close people, like, have I changed? Like, do you feel I'm not present? And they're like, Sue, you're always thinking about work, you're always on the
Mm.
phone. And but by Drew saying that to me that I wasn't present, I knew something had to change. And we came home and I got on a plane and I went to a conference and I said to a confident and colleague of mine, he said, what's preoccupying you? And again, I'm preoccupied. And I told him the story and he said, how can I help? And I don't think if I was an EO, I would have been open to someone saying, "How can I help?" So I said, "I don't know. Why don't you buy me?" And he said, "Why don't we talk about that?"
Wow.
Pretty much by the end of the time we were talking, he said, "Why don't we talk about that?" And that was in the end of August of 2018. And by December 1st, the deal was closed.
And you wanted him to buy you because?
I wanted him to buy me because some of the investors that I had on my board, I didn't want to be with anymore.
Okay.
So that's super important to know who you're getting in bed with, who's giving.
Yes.
I had about a capital of about $3 million behind me,
Okay.
and I had investors that I had to answer to, which is fine.
Sure.
And I didn't end up liking I didn't feel the expectations of those investors and I were being in sync.
Okay.
And when they're not in sync, you have to like think of maybe doing something else. And then also having the conversation with my son of me not being present.
Right.
Like all the lines were meeting at once, and I was able to have the confidence in talking with my forum and EO to say, "This is what I'm thinking." And they were like, "I don't know that you are thinking right. So even though this wasn't a game plan, like, why don't you walk through that door?" And it allowed me to really have a great path. And now I do only the things I like. I originate loans. I make changes in other originators' lives by helping them build their business. And, what better than to help people with the American dream of home ownership?
I can't think of much better. I mean, that's the biggest investment many people ever make in their life, right?
And it's the biggest way to gain wealth in the United States.
That's right. Right. That's another whole point I didn't even
Yes,
think about. Right. So, something you said before about be careful who you get in bed with. So here's this guy you're sitting next to. You said, buy me. I'm assuming
he
you
did.
didn't know that at that moment that you'd really
Yeah,
go
it was
through
kind
with
of
it.
facetious, but it
Right.
ended up being it's when I always say that good things happen when luck and opportunity meet. And I have a great luck and I made myself have different opportunities. And it's just really realizing that you have to listen to your gut,
Yes. That's so true.
and your gut instincts are so, so important.
So important.
And everything happens for a reason.
That's right.
And having the forum to like really say, am I making the right decision? And them not giving me their opinion, but giving me their experience
That's right. Yeah. That's the
really
EOA.
made a huge difference in being with like-minded people because they all were in different walks of life.
Sure.
And that allowed me to be really solid in my decision. And I think that's why 6 years later, it's still good.
It sounds like it worked out great.
It did, and it was super important to know the culture, make sure the culture's
That's what I was
aligned.
gonna ask you. How did you vet him? What's the advice? Could
Well,
you
so
give
I
an
had already
interview or
known him,
okay,
so
that
and our
helps.
backgrounds are very similar,
Mhm.
and it just all aligned,
Yeah.
and our cultures were very similar.
Is that one of the key things
The
you'd
one
say?
of the main things was that our cultures were really similar, yet they were I would say the biggest hurdle we had is they are a Midwestern company, and we're a Northeast Philadelphia company,
Fast
so
moving.
fast
Yeah.
moving, quick, short on the email, short on the tone, short on the over the communication over the phone. We really had to
Yeah.
work with our group to really like soften it a little bit. And but it's been great. We also, I also asked my EO people like, what are the things that I need to be cognizant of? What do I need to be
Sure.
thinking of? And they said, retention. Retention is the number one thing that you have to think of now. Once you
Employee
merge,
retention.
keep the employee retention. The ones you're keeping, especially the sales staff, you need
All
to
right.
love on them because that's what's going to take you the next level. And I could tell that my sales staff wanted me to practically be more involved in their day-to-day activity,
Okay.
which I wasn't able to do when I was the CEO of Centennial Lending Group because I was doing everything else.
Got it.
And in hindsight, I probably should have hired like an operations person to like help more with
Mhm.
it, more of a COO, but I wasn't there at the time to
Right.
really be there. I mean, gosh, if you do a company a second time, like, second time around's always better, but I
Yeah,
don't know that I'd ever
agreed.
bite that off again.
Yeah, yeah, I've had 2 businesses too. I understand you completely.
Yes.
It's it's exhausting.
It is exhausting,
Right,
and I think as a woman, it's even more exhausting because 'cause you're
right,
doing a whole
yeah,
other job at home,
right,
and there is no such thing as balance, and you either have it great at home or you really have it great at work is
right.
what I could see, and you just have to be fine with that up and down slide.
That it is what it is.
It is
It's
what it
part of
is.
being in business, and I think honestly, I think that the kids, as long as you're giving an appropriate amount of attention,
Right,
which sometimes feels like you can't, but when you can and when you are, I feel like, maybe chasing balance, complete and total balance is not reality.
right,
I mean, there's going to be times you're more balanced than others, but if you're always chasing it, then you're never going to be relaxed and
right,
never going to feel happy or satisfied. It's going to be a race
for
constantly.
sure.
Yeah. So I love that Drew, is your son?
My son,
Son,
my
because
oldest,
that could
yeah.
be a girl or boy, right? I know, I love that Drew gave you that little push, that you probably needed. I can relate to it.
Yeah, I totally needed it, and then that allowed me to really be present for my daughter, went all through high school, and I got to really love on my son his last year of high school.
Hmm.
And then in college, I've been able to really be present and just if I want to get on a plane and if I wanted to, they both went to Alabama and now I have one at Penn State and one's graduated, but I could get on a plane and go do it. I could never have done that. And is it difficult at times? To not be the buck stops here and
I
I
was going
make
to
all the
ask you that
decisions?
question. I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, it's totally difficult.
Yeah.
But I'm so okay with my decision that I can put my head on the pillow every night. And I always said if I couldn't put my head on the pillow every night, there would be a problem. And it got to a point where when I was owning CLG, I couldn't. We lovingly call CLG Centennial Lending Group, vice versa. So
Okay.
so I couldn't really lay my head on the pillow and really rest easily. And so that's like all the worlds aligned. And now I can. I can say,
Okay.
like, I don't have that. The buck doesn't stop with me. I was walking into a someplace today and I was walking with a friend and I said, not my decision. So it's nice to not have it be your decision sometimes.
I
You can
can't
say,
imagine.
not my decision. That's their decision. And if whatever they do, you have to be okay with. And that's the thing. And it's nice when they call and ask me my opinion because then I feel validated. And, but giving up being a CEO is a hard job to give up.
What is your role now at the
So I'm
business?
an executive, the president of Centennial Lending Group, which is a division of Success Mortgage Partners.
Okay.
So I retained my title of president, and I'm on an executive level. I sell every single day mortgages,
Okay.
and that's what I really love to do. That's what I have a passion for. That's
Yeah.
what I got into the business of, and love empowering women to become homeowners. And right now that's almost 30%
No
of
kidding.
homeownership is single women. And I think that's super
Is that
important.
right? I didn't know that.
Yes.
So you have a niche in your
I
world
have a
too.
little niche,
Hmm.
and especially because, with divorce being so prevalent,
Oh, right.
in helping, you really need to know how to help the attorneys and the, divorcing couple of how to get over that hump, of
Okay.
the marital property and can both, go to different places and be okay who wants to retain the marital property if they want to retain the marital property. So all of this comes into women home ownership. So I love giving first time home buyers houses. That's like so super exciting. But it's just great to be able to really be as hands on, which I had lost a little bit of that being the CEO of Centennial.
Okay. So you got the unique opportunity to get back into the
Right.
saddle and doing
Mm-hmm.
some of the work,
Yep.
but you're still a president, so you're still running
Yeah, I'm
the
still president. I
business.
run the division,
Right.
and I have a very big brand
That's
and I have a
wonderful.
consulting firm that I work every day with other people. I coach. I have
Oh,
a book that I wrote 10 years ago
right.
called Crazy Lucky Girl, Do You Have the Keys to Success? And, I have a podcast too, which is Grab Your Keys. So I like to have, you can find me everywhere on all the different platforms of social media, and I like that brand because I just really love helping other people.
So tell us a little bit about your consulting. Might as well get a plug in for that.
Yeah, so the consulting really helps people with how to develop their social media
Oh,
if
okay.
they want to brand themselves.
Hmm.
And I work with people every day with regards to that. And I love doing that too. So
Oh,
just a little bit of
excellent.
everything so
Yeah.
that I like to have lots of different irons in the fire. But what entrepreneur doesn't?
I was just going to say, you spoken like a true
Right.
entrepreneur. Like you couldn't just settle for being president. You had to have something else going
Something
on.
else going on.
And it's funny because in EO, where there's 19,000 members worldwide, hard to believe, unbelievable. You rarely find anybody that just has the one gig. I mean, there's
Right.
plenty of people that do, and some of their gigs are. I mean, there's people in the billions,
Right.
and then there's people just at 1 million. But it's either real estate or some other kind of side gig.
Yeah, well, I think that we have to stimulate our brains in a lot of different ways
Yes.
if you have an entrepreneurial spirit. And one of the things I love about EO is really seeing the dynamic of all those different entrepreneurial spirits out there. Pretty much, if you go to any town, any city, you can always find somebody who knows about EO. I even brought it up today. I was somewhere else today during my travels and I said, "Oh, I have a podcast for EO. Have you heard of EO?" And the guy was like, "Oh, I totally have heard of EO. That's super great that you're doing that." And I was like, "Well, if you ever want to know more, let me know."
Sometimes I think it would be so easy to just sell EO.
Yes,
Like this would be a great side gig because it sells itself. I mean,
it does. And
because
that's
it's
why
real. And yeah, and we're not plugging, this isn't a podcast to plug EO. However, everyone that's been on, especially today, as we've been interviewing a few in one day, it just seems to keep coming back to
and I
that.
think that it's because, especially with a tenured person who's
It's
been
true.
in it, you stay in it because you're getting something out of it.
That's right.
And it's the relationships. It's the know, like, and trust. So I'm definitely not plugging you. I'm just
Right.
finding I've
No,
gotten, as I
it's
look
impossible not to.
back in the history of being part of something for 13 years,
It's a long time.
it's the relationships that you build and they're the ones that flourish. It's not per se because of an EO event. It's
Mhm.
because of it's all compiled into one thing that flourishes.
Right. That's right. And just, we were saying earlier, just the little side conversations. You go to whether it's a local or regional or international event, it's those little side and knowing that you can trust whoever you're talking to.
That there's a confidentiality,
Yes,
but I'll
it's
say,
guaranteed.
I was in a conversation with, actually it was in Forum, and I was having a problem with something. I don't even remember what the something is, but one of the gentlemen said, "Sue, it's because you are trying to be part of every single thing. If you have an assembly line, you are not going to be part of every single thing. You need to trust the people on the assembly line that they're going to do their job and that the end product is going to be just as good as if you were the one doing
Love
it."
that.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're totally right." And I have taken what I got from that forum in 2012, let's say, and used it in almost every aspect of my
I
life.
love that. It's like there's not that many places in your life when you think about it, friendships, family, etc., where people are brutally honest with you, but you know that they're doing it out of love to help you
Right.
succeed.
And that's the
Yeah.
conversation that I heard. He said, "In my experience, this is what I see," but then you have to put it into your
That's a
brain
very
of
good
what
point.
you hear.
Right.
And that could be a totally different conversation because you're having a different conversation with yourself. So I always like to
Right.
say to people, well, what I heard doesn't mean
Mhm.
that's what was said to me, but what I heard, what I
That's a good point.
interpreted
Yeah. Yeah. I
was
love that.
this.
Yeah.
And because then you relay the conversation, over and over and over a decade. And it's really it's still the same
Right.
story,
But
just the way I heard it.
whatever the story was, that one thing that impacted you, that
Yes.
one. So as a tenured member, I guess to sum things up, as a tenured member, what advice would you give to somebody newer, like newer in EO or just newer? This is open to anybody to
Yeah.
listen to. So anybody newer in business, you've been around, you've gotten some success, you've merged, you
Yeah.
even stepped back, which I think takes the most guts because stepping away, the ego oftentimes gets in the way of
Yes.
doing what's best for you as a human
Well, your
being.
ego is really big.
Yeah,
So that's and I can have a big ego, but your ego is hard.
yeah,
And I will tell you one story, and then I'll get back to the
sure.
question that you asked. So we merged on December 1st, and I flew out to Detroit to go to a Christmas party. And we had already agreed on the logo of Centennial, the way it was going to go in the future, and something changed on the logo. And the owner of the company brought me into his office and he said, "We need to change this." And I was so enraged by it. But I
Mhm.
wasn't enraged by what he said or that the logo was changing. It was my ego that was enraged that I had no control
Ah,
over what this decision was. And as a woman, could feel the tears start to well up
oh
in my
boy.
eyes. And it was just that the finality of what I had
Mm.
done hit. And I said to him, "Can you get me to the nearest bathroom without anyone seeing me?"
Oh wow.
And he said, "Yes." And he said, "Just stand behind my shoulder and walk with me."
Holy moly.
And
Yeah.
we literally had to walk 20 feet. And I went into the bathroom and I locked the door and I literally, like, totally broke down. But it was because of my ego that I broke down, and I had to know that it was because of my ego because I was very confident that I made the right decision. So it is a very difficult balance between your confidence and your ego and having it in check and understanding yourself. But getting back to what I would tell anyone who is,
Before you start that, I just want to say thank you for sharing that. That's a
oh, well,
very
thanks.
raw
It was
story.
pretty raw.
Yeah, I mean, I feel emotional just listening to it, I have
Yeah,
to say. And that's really thank you for sharing that. But that's the reality of
it's the
it, right?
reality of it. It's the
Whether you're
reality.
merging, whether you're selling, we had Tim Dever on who sold
Love
his
him.
last bit, right? How can you not?
I
But just sold his last final 7 restaurants, gone, done. Like
Well, it's like
that's,
your
yeah,
first child
right,
or a child of yours, and you're
right.
like literally handing them over to someone, and you have to be like, "Please take care of
Ah,
this
it's heavy
thing
duty,
that I've worked so hard and is part of me."
right?
And it was pretty heavy. It was really difficult. And I remember I had a team with me and I had my assistant at the time with me, and I texted her and I said, "I need you to come find me, and I don't know what bathroom I'm in."
Oh, wow.
so
So, so
so
you had
I
someone.
needed,
I love how
yeah.
you handled the. Can you get me here
Can
without anybody seeing me? That's
Because I didn't want anyone to
yeah.
see me and
No,
think that
nobody does.
I
Yeah.
was having an emotion. Like, I needed to be strong, but as a woman, I couldn't help the tears welling up in my eyes, and I didn't want to show the emotion at the same time. So you know that feeling. Every woman that's listening knows that feeling of when you're like, the dam's gonna break soon.
And
So
it, and it's a woman problem.
it is.
I mean, I'm not saying men don't have that problem. I don't know. I'm not a man, but I would say more women because if a man shows emotion, it's like a beautiful thing. Like, oh, look at him showing emotion.
He's so
Everyone
sympathetic
holds
and
their heart.
empathetic
When
to
you
it.
show a man walking his puppy or playing with a baby, everyone's, oh, look at that. When they show a mother, it's just expected and
Mhm.
maybe they think it's beautiful or whatever, but it's not the same thing. And women, if you show that crying or you show that emotion, we know that there's a price that we will pay for that.
Yes.
It's without a doubt, and it's unfair. It's unfortunate. It's not real. It's all imaginary in our heads, but it isn't not real to some people because for some people they'll take you down
Yes.
for
And
being
you and,
weak.
and you need to know who to trust. So back to that question, know your
Right.
gut and trust yourself,
Yes, that's good.
because you really need to trust yourself, and yourself will take you to the next level and the next level. So surround yourself, know yourself and what your good parts of yourself are and your weaknesses are, and then surround yourself with the people who really embody your weaker strengths,
I love that. Yeah.
and then they will take you there. And it's okay that you can't be everything to everyone.
Right.
But if you have a circle of excellence around you and
Right.
you surround
Oh,
yourself with the best in the business, there's no way you can't go up.
that's right. I agree with that. I feel like is that the advice you wanted to
That is
offer?
the advice I would
That is
give.
that is awesome advice because reality is nobody has become successful by themselves.
No,
It's impossible.
it is impossible.
No matter who you are or how inventive or how
Right.
if you are an inventor, you need somebody marketing it. If you're,
Yes.
marketer, you need someone that has something to sell. Whatever it is, right.
And when you need advice, ask for it.
And
It's
right,
okay.
that's right.
That's why, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
You just need to you can make, the wheels are the same on a Ferrari as a Volvo.
Right.
So use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Use it. You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
And it's several people today said that talked about mentorship. If you had a mentor, leaning on others, it's it's almost foolish not to,
Absolutely.
to not surround yourself with people who've been there, done that, and put your ego aside. They were all there with you once, and when you show vulnerability, people will open to you,
Oh, for sure. I
right?
always said if I could package vulnerability, I would be a billionaire.
That's awesome.
You really, because you do show vulnerability all the time,
Right,
and that's okay.
right,
It's because everyone's vulnerable,
right, right,
and we're all human.
right.
Like, we all are human,
And
and we
and
need to remember that
I don't even think you can build a successful business if you don't show your vulnerability at some point to somebody, somewhere,
for sure.
and get the help you need because you can't. Yeah, and even in your business, every point of growth requires another whole level of vulnerability because you don't know what it is to be. We were saying this earlier, I think, like a 1 million business to a 5 million. It's a whole different ball game. 5 million to 10 million, or anywhere in between, whatever. Right.
Absolutely,
Yeah, that's great.
absolutely.
Well, it sounds like you've done well. So,
Well,
so
thank you.
what's your future? I'll just say, let's end it
Yeah,
with
so
what's
it's
your,
funny. I have really loved the last 6 years of
yeah,
the way that it's gone, and I always say that when the right opportunity comes, if I feel like jumping into it, I will,
okay,
and, I'm just waiting to see what that next thing is.
okay,
I don't really have any plans. I plan on giving as many people, the American dream of homeownership as I
okay,
possibly can, and that's what I'm loving on right now. I
that's
really
great.
love being in the trenches of it, really helping people. And who knows what the future will hold. I'm
Right.
sure that I mean, I'm only in my 50s,
Oh, okay, yeah,
and
love that.
I have lots of energy and experience to
Time
share.
left. Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. So I'm so glad you were here today. I really
Tina, thank you
appreciate
for
getting to know
having
you.
me. I love what you're doing. And,
Thanks.
the word of getting people's experience out is so important because people learning is very important.
Right. And tell us again, your podcast name was?
So the podcast is Grab Your Keys,
Love that.
and you can check it out you can get it anywhere. Just Google Sue Meitner and it will be somewhere.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you, Sue.